Hey there, thanks for watching another episode. So today we're going to talk about SD-WAN. So your company's in the market for SD-WAN, but as you probably have seen, there are hundreds, if not thousands, of options when it comes to SD-WAN service providers or SD-WAN vendors. So where do you start? Like, which vendors should you start taking a look at? Well, I'm a broker for all the major SD-WAN service providers, so I have a pretty good idea of where to start because this is my job every day. I'm like, okay, well, there's hundreds of options. Which ones are the best fit for this said customer? So I have some different ways that I kind of filter through the SD-WAN service providers and narrow them down. And so today I'm going to tell you 5 quick ways to narrow down your search in terms of comparing SD-WAN vendors. But before I get too far ahead of myself, a couple quick plugs. Number 1, if you haven't seen our website, go take a look at it. I guarantee you've never seen a website like this when it comes to comparing SD-WAN vendors. You can actually go to the homepage and search for the product SD-WAN, and then on the left-hand column, you can go even further. You can filter SD-WAN providers by certain aspects of service providers, some of which I'm going to be talking about today. And then you can click on the provider, read about them, watch videos on them. The cool thing is that's going to still leave you with a lot of questions and needing a lot of information, still needing pricing, things like that. And that's where I come in. If you want my recommendations on the best SD-WAN vendors for your company and you'd like help getting quotes, things like that, reach out, contact me. That's my job. I'm a broker for all these service providers. I'll make sure you get paired up with the right vendors, get the best pricing from them, talk to the best reps at each vendor. And the nice thing is my service is free to you. You don't have to pay me a thing. So absolutely no reason not to at least reach out and give it a try. More information on that at the end of the video. As always, if you like the video, don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell button, all that good stuff. I'd really appreciate it. It helps YouTube know that this channel's a good one and it helps our videos get out there more. So definitely appreciate it. Okay, so SD-WAN, 5 ways to narrow all the different vendors that are out there, narrow them down to something that's more palatable to look at. But before I even get to that, one quick thing that you definitely want to do is take a look at the video I made a couple years back on the different types of SD-WAN architecture. I listed 3 different types of SD-WAN architecture in a video: on-prem only, cloud-enabled, and cloud-enabled plus backbone. Now, since I made that video, there's been some expansion of those categories, but I'd say that it's still the same. It's still those main 3 categories, but there's been kind of expansion within those categories. Like, for instance, cloud-enabled. There's now cloud-enabled with security, and then with cybersecurity, there's different types of cybersecurity, stuff like that. So, but take a look at that video too. That'll kind of help you understand some of the things I'm talking about in this one. The first thing you want to do is decide, are your most critical applications on-prem or are they up in the cloud? Like, for instance, do you have a server that's running some really critical application that's specific to your company, and that's the most critical application that you're doing, and it's really sensitive to real-time data? Or is everything up in the cloud? So what that's going to do is it's going to narrow down the types of vendors that you want to look at. So if your critical applications are in the cloud, then you really want to optimize your site to cloud connectivity, which means you're going to want to look at cloud-enabled solutions. You're going to want to look at those solutions that give you an on-site appliance that connects up to a cloud gateway instead of just an on-site appliance, because when you're connected to a cloud gateway, it opens up a bunch of different things that optimizes with the cloud. Again, reference that video to tell you more about it. That is question number 1, or way number 1 that you want to narrow things down, is ask yourself, are your most critical applications based on premises or are they up in the cloud? Okay, the second thing that you want to do is you want to ask, does your company want to include cybersecurity services with SD-WAN? So your first reaction might be, oh man, that's just more stuff we got to do. I don't feel like doing that. No, just SD-WAN. But hold it right there. Don't make any quick decisions. So when you think about security, you might be thinking, okay, we have firewalls at every site, we're handled, we're good to go. But a big thing going on in this industry is consolidation. They're really consolidating all these different technologies down. That's happening all throughout tech, right? You have all these great technologies and all these different silos, but the problem is it makes your life really difficult because you're having to do all these different things in all these different silos. Well, it's better when you get them all packaged in one technology. So you have one vendor that's handling all that stuff. And when it comes to cybersecurity, it's definitely smart to put that into your SD-WAN services, because where does the trouble come from? It's coming from outside of your organization through the wide area network, through the internet, right? And that's what SD-WAN is handling for you. So it makes sense to bundle those things together. So maybe the timing of your SD-WAN decision should be, maybe you need it now, but maybe you should plan on adding security when your firewalls are going to be end of life, or maybe you want to add it now, but that's definitely something that you want to think of, because what that's going to do is it's going to help you determine, do we want to use an SD-WAN vendor that can include security, or does that matter at all to us? That's not anywhere in the near future. That's 10 years out, maybe we're going to be thinking about that. Then you don't have to worry about that. And to take that a little step further, if you do want to package your firewall or security with your SD-WAN vendor, how far do you want to go? Do you just need a stateful firewall type solution at every single site? Or do you need like next-gen firewall that includes email filtering, content filtering, spam filtering, stuff like that? Or do you need to take it a step further and include things like MDR, SIM-SOC, threat hunting, incident response, cybersecurity, risk management, things like that? How far down into cybersecurity do you want to go? Because there are vendors out there who can do all of it. And there are vendors out there who can do some, and there are vendors out there who can do none. So asking yourself those questions up front will really help you narrow the field of SD-WAN vendors in terms of which ones that you want to look at. The third big thing that you want to think about when it comes to SD-WAN is, does your company need global coverage for the SD-WAN? Or is it just in the United States? Or maybe just in Canada or something like that? So, anywhere outside of the United States is what I'd consider global. I'm in the United States, so I consider domestic anything in the United States, global anything outside of the United States. So that's kind of where I'm coming from when I'm talking about global. But ask yourself that question, because that's going to narrow down the vendors. Most SD-WAN vendors are based in the United States. Most of their network and facilities are in the United States. So globally, do you have locations in China? That's a big one. Australia, the UK, South America. Where are your locations located? Are they global? Are they just domestic in the United States? That's obviously going to narrow the vendors quite a bit. Some vendors specialize in global networks. Some vendors specialize in domestic. Something else that you need to ask, number 4, are you having issues today on your wide area network? Is the thing that's driving you to SD-WAN that you're having latency across your backbone or across your wide area network? Is that what's driving you to SD-WAN? If so, especially if you have global sites, or sites that are really far apart, like on one side of the United States and the other side, like California and New York, and you're having latency today, decide that up front, because that's going to push you towards, if you're having latency and you're trying to fix latency with SD-WAN, you should probably focus on SD-WAN vendors that can provide a global backbone network along with the SD-WAN services. So what that means is, as soon as you hop on the nearest SD-WAN POP from that SD-WAN vendor, you hop onto their global private backbone. So your traffic is not touching the public internet very much as it travels globally. So it's going to reduce your latency, packet loss, and jitter. Lastly, something you probably won't hear from many people unless they're really experienced in quoting SD-WAN like I am. Do your locations have over 500 megs of internet bandwidth, and do you need that bandwidth for sure? So if you haven't quoted SD-WAN in the past, you may not know this, but some SD-WAN service providers charge for bandwidth. They charge by the bandwidth that you need. So the more bandwidth that you need, the more expensive it gets. While other SD-WAN service providers, those vendors charge by number of circuits or something along those lines. So if your company has a lot of bandwidth, especially at multiple sites, SD-WAN is going to get pretty pricey. And I'd say the cutoff is about 500 megs. So if your company needs 400 or 500 megs or more of bandwidth at the sites, you don't want to have to throttle that because of your SD-WAN solution. It's kind of a bummer, right? You get all this bandwidth, it's really cheap, it's really cool, but oh, by the way, once you put in SD-WAN, you're never going to get it because your SD-WAN is throttling it at 200 meg because your company can't pay for more than that for the SD-WAN service. So you don't want to do that ideally. If you have 500 megs or more at multiple sites, it might, and I say it might, make sense for you to look at a service provider that charges by the circuit or by some other method, not by bandwidth, because if they're charging by bandwidth, it gets pretty pricey once you hit about 500 megs to a gig. Those SD-WAN sites get pretty pricey. So just something else that you want to know that might help you narrow down your options there. I hope that was helpful information. Those are 5 ways to narrow down your SD-WAN service provider options, your vendor options when it comes to SD-WAN. But once again, take a look at our website. I guarantee you've not seen a website like this before. Go to the homepage, type in SD-WAN, take a look at the way you can filter out providers, and you can do all this filtering that I'm talking about right on our website. But once you start doing that, you're still going to have a lot of questions. There's still going to be a lot of questions unanswered. You're not going to be able to find the best SD-WAN solution just by looking at a website. There's way too much involved, and that's where I come in. I've been a broker for this type of stuff for over 20 years. So I know the whole landscape of SD-WAN vendors. I know all of your options out there, and I'll ask you some questions about your company's requirements. And based on your answers to those questions, I'll narrow down the landscape for you and tell you, hey, if I were you, I'd quote these 2 to 3 service providers for SD-WAN. And not only that, I'll introduce you to them. I'll introduce you to the right reps to talk to with those service providers that I've worked with before, that I trust, that I think will do a good job. I'll be on the calls with you as they explain their solution. I'll also oversee the whole quoting process to make sure your company gets the best pricing. And the nice thing is you don't have to pay me anything. The service providers, the vendors themselves, pay me my broker fee. So there's absolutely no excuse not to at least reach out, give me a call, send me an email, give me a try, and it won't cost you anything, and see what I have to come up with. So that's my plug. That's the reason why I do these videos, in hopes that you can see that I know a lot about the information, and I can definitely help you, and hopefully you'll reach out and contact me for some quotes, and I'd love to help. All right, well, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe. Thanks again for watching another episode, and I'll catch you on the next one.